Hey gardeners, Amy here. Today I want to talk about sedums, also called stone crops. So sedum is a very large genus in the family Crassulaceae. The things that all sedums have in common are they are succulents, they are mostly drought tolerant, most of them are low growing, but not all of them, and they are very useful in many situations. So I want to talk about them today because they're just really cool plants. I'm not going to talk about one species of sedum in particular because there are so many, so I'm going to cover several of my favorites. There are also many common names, but the gist of the common names is usually its genus name, sedum, or stone crop. For the purposes of this video, I'm just going to call them sedum. As far as native area, each of these plants has its own native range, obviously, but there are sedums that are native pretty much everywhere in the world. In fact, it would be a much shorter list to say where sedums are not native to than it would be to say where they are native to. But really, this is one of those plants where native range, I feel, is less important than functionality. They are really useful plants. Pollinators love them. You probably can't see it on the camera, but these are absolutely covered in at least 3 species of bees right now as I speak. Most of them are tiny little native bees you can barely even see. So pollinators love them. And like I said, I'm less concerned about native range with this one than I am about just, does it work for your landscape? They are quite hardy. Most of them are hardy down to zones 3 or 4, but I'll talk about that with each specific species. The characteristics that each of these plants has in common is that they have a fleshy, succulent leaf. They hold water in the leaves, which makes the leaves really thick and fleshy. This also allows them to be much more drought tolerant than a normal plant because they hold so much water in their leaves, so they don't need water as often as most plants. The genus has been described as containing up to 600 species, but it has been reduced to about 400 to 500. They are found primarily in the northern hemisphere, but extending into the southern hemisphere in Africa and South America. The plants vary from annual and creeping herbs to shrubs. The flowers are some of the coolest star-shaped flowers I've ever seen, in some really neat patterns that just like spiral out, fireworks. They're really neat. They usually have 5 petals. Seldom they'll have 4 or 6. There are typically twice as many stamens as petals. How to grow sedum? Typically, most sedums prefer hot, dry, and well-drained. So you don't need to worry about water. It's excellent for a water-wise garden or a xeriscape. They really do need sun, though, so don't try to plant them in shade. They won't do well there. And they do need well-drained soil. Don't try to bother planting them in clay. That won't work. They will just rot and die. As far as care goes, almost nothing. The zero care is needed on these plants. If you want to keep things really tidy, you could deadhead them after the flowers fade. I have done that for many clients just because they wanted to keep things really nice looking, and that's fine. But if you want them to spread faster by seed or feed critters that eat the seeds, just leave it. It's not important. It's not like required for the plant to be deadheaded. You're not likely to get a second flush of blooms either, so it's not something I focus on in my own garden. I just leave them. Also, fertilizer is not usually necessary for these plants. They do just fine in poor soils. You might give them something balanced in the spring, but it's not required. This is a plant that I have never seen deer or rabbits eat it. I don't know if it's actually classified as having deer resistance. I think it is, but I'm not positive on that. And there are very few diseases that affect these plants. Honestly, the worst you're likely to get is root rot if they get too much water or the soil isn't drained well enough. And as far as hosted species, each one would have its own specific list of hosted species, but I don't actually know what they are. I didn't find much information on that. I know that they support generalist pollinators with their nectar and their pollen, but I don't know if there's any specific insect-plant relationships with these. Now let's get into the specifics of my favorite ones. I'll start with one that's native to my area in eastern Washington, Sedum lanceolatum. The common names are lanceleaf stonecrop and spearleaf stonecrop. Its USDA zone is 5 through 9, and it's native to western North America from Canada to the US. It grows in exposed Rocky Mountain habitats. It's very short and fairly compact. Each stem is biennial and is replaced with new offsets. Leaves are ovate to lanceolate and vary in color from dull gray to green if they're in the shade and maroon if they're in full sun. That's another thing I really love about lots of sedums is that their color actually depends on how much sun they get, and the leaves can turn a deeper red if they get enough sun. Mwah, love it. This is another one of my favorites. This is called Sedum album. Album means white, and the name is obviously in reference to the white flowers. Sedum album is zoned 3 through 8. It's native to Europe, Western Asia, and Northern Africa. It spreads rapidly by prostrate stems that root at the nodes. It's very low growing and makes an excellent ground cover. The leaves are round and fleshy. They're almost shaped like a bean. And each one of these can root. I just made a new plant. It spreads so easily. Like, it could be borderline invasive. Like, you have to be careful with this one. But if you have a spot where nothing will grow or you want something to fill in as a ground cover quickly, this is a really good solution because of how fast it grows. Sedum spurium is another one of my favorites, and it has several different varieties, of which this is one of them. Sedum spurium is actually its old name. It's been reclassified as Vedemus spurius. Varieties of this one include Fuldeglute, Dragon's Blood, John Creech, Tricolor, Roseum, and several others. This is probably one that's the easiest to find in nurseries. It's sold everywhere. There are so many varieties, and I love them all. This one here, I'm pretty sure is John Creech, but I honestly don't remember. It's usually zoned 3 or 4 up through 9. They are native to Caucasus, Iran, and Turkey. They typically grow 2 to 6 inches high and 2 to 3 feet wide, but as you can see here, they continue to spread. Just like most varieties of low-growing creeping sedum, they have above-ground stems that root at the nodes, and so they can continue to spread indefinitely until something literally stops them. 2 of my other favorites that look very similar aside from their color are Sedum rupestri angelina, which is zoned 3 to 11, and it's native to Central and Western Europe, and Sedum reflexum blue spruce, which is zoned 4 through 9, and it's native to Europe and North Africa. Both of these rather look like pine branches the way they grow. They have long, lanceolate but pointy leaves in a whorl around the stem, and really the main difference is their color. Angelina is a bright yellow that goes ombre to orange and even red. Blue spruce is a gray, blue, green color. Both of them are fantastic. They grow almost anywhere, and I love putting them together, like in checkerboard patterns with other sedum, because you just get these fantastic colors, and it's gorgeous. This one here is Sedum kamchaticum, and I really apologize if I butcher these pronunciations. This one's tough for me. Sedum kamchaticum is also known as orange stonecrop, Russian stonecrop, petrosedum, Kamchatka sedum, Kamchatka stonecrop, Phedemus kamchaticus. Say that a few times fast. Seriously, I dare you. It's zoned 3 through 9, and it's native to China, the Pacific coast of Siberia, including the Kamchatka. I love this one for its interesting leaves. Instead of being short and round, they're long and narrow with this really cool serration at the ends. And then they do have really awesome yellow flowers. This one's already done, but I did take some pictures while it was blooming, so here's those. And this is one that is particularly drought tolerant. This is out in my xeric bed, right on the edge where it gets the reflected heat from the street and the curb. I almost never get water all the way out here. This gets watered by me 4 to 5 times a year. And like I said, I almost never get the sprinkler all the way to the curb. It usually stops like back here somewhere. So this does not get watered by me at all. And it's doing fine. It's thriving. And I can't talk about a list of my favorite sedums without at least mentioning Autumn Joy. Now, Sedum Autumn Joy has been reclassified. It's not actually in the sedum genus anymore. It is now called Hylotelephium herbstfreude. Autumn Joy sedum is a hybrid cross between Sedum telephium and Hylotelephium spectable. It's zoned 3 through 9, and it typically grows about 2 feet high and wide, but I have seen it grow much, much larger in gardens where it's really happy. This one blooms in the fall, which is why it's called Autumn Joy, and it has these tall spikes with large fleshy leaves, usually gray-green or something. The leaves are huge. They're like big pads. This one stays pretty small, I think, because it's shaded by the tree, but usually they're much bigger. When it blooms, it is just covered in panicles of flowers all over. It's absolutely stunning. But the foliage is gorgeous all year, so it's a great addition to any garden, really, because it's easy to grow and it's absolutely stunning, and it gives you some gorgeous fall color. Designing with sedum, as I mentioned, you can plant sedum pretty much anywhere. There are so many colors and variations and textures and growth types. You can plant a sedum in almost any spot. So rather than telling you what's blooming at the same time, I'm just going to say start with picking the sedum that is the color you want with the leaf color and then the flower color, and then just find the right place for that sedum. Again, they like dry, well-drained soil. Let it dry out between waterings if you water it at all. If sedum needs watering, it will tell you. The leaves will start to like shrivel up a bit. Give it some water at that point. And make sure you plant them in full sun. As I said, this one's a little stunted because it gets shaded by my plum tree. But the reason it does well here is because it likes the drought conditions of my xeric bed. Sedum are excellent in rock gardens, in the cracks between walls, and they are typically fire resistant. So these are an excellent ground cover to have in your zone 2 and sometimes even in your zone 1 of a Firewise landscape. I have a full video on Firewise landscaping. I'll link that in the upper corner and in the description down below. So thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you found this video educational and valuable. If you did, if you learned something new, make sure to tell me by hitting the like button. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments down below. And if you have not already subscribed, please do that so you get more gardening content in your video feed every week. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you in the garden.